So here we are, Odyssey Book 6, and you're going to find that there are some words you need to spell correctly, and I've written one or two down here on this slide to make them clear. So first of all we have our poet, Homer, and as you can see from the date I've put here, the approximate date for the composition of the Iliad, the first poem, and the Odyssey, the second poem, is about 750 BC. Now remember that Herodotus, our other author, is writing about 450 BC, so 300 years later. And of course Herodotus is writing in prose and Homer is writing in verse. And the metre, in actual fact, of the two great epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, is the hexameter here, lines of 6 feet. This word epic is, I suppose, used these days in rather a vague way, but in describing poetry it's a technical term. An epic poem has certain fixed characteristics, one of which is that it's written in hexameters, another of which is that it's usually a rather long poem. There are 24 books in the Iliad and 24 books in the Odyssey, thousands of lines altogether. So the hero of our poem is Odysseus here. Make sure you spell him correctly. And Odysseus has spent 10 years fighting the Trojans at Troy, leaving behind his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus on the island of Ithaca. And since the end of the war at Troy, he's been heading home, but it's going to take him 10 years to reach home. He's going to be away for 20 years in the end. And this is we're now in about the 8th year of his journey back from Troy, and he's finally, at the end of his journey, he's left all alone. He has been washed ashore on an island inhabited by a people called the Phaeacians. Here are the Phaeacians. He's alone, he's naked, and he's very vulnerable in this situation. As it will turn out, the Phaeacians are a very civilized society, and they will welcome Odysseus, and they will provide him with food and clothes, and they will send him on his way safe back to Ithaca. The king of the Phaeacians is Alcinous, and I should have mentioned his wife, the queen of the Phaeacians, who does appear in our text. Her name is Arete, but the focus of our text is upon the princess of the household, the daughter of Alcinous and Arete, and her name is Nausicaa, as you can see here at the bottom of the slide. Now make sure you can spell Nausicaa and Alcinous and the Phaeacians and Odysseus and Odyssey and Homer. They're not all of them terribly easy to spell. Make sure you can spell them. So this is where we're at then. Odysseus is washed ashore on the coast of the island of the Phaeacians, and he is at the moment, so it would appear to the readers, in a difficult situation. However, help is at hand. So here's our first section of the text, and we start at line 48, as you can see. Well, here's 50 anyway. And we have our first word, Nausicaa, which is a connecting word of not much force in actual fact. I would probably just say something like then. So then, the capital eta here, Eos, this is Dawn, the goddess Dawn personified. Dawn came. Now you know that verb erkamai, and elfen in actual fact looks very much like a traditional Attic verb. It looks like a verb you would recognise. It's the aorist of erkamai. Not all Homeric verbs will be quite so recognisable, I have to warn you. So then Dawn came, euthronos, well throned. It's an adjective describing Dawn. It's one of these two termination adjectives. The masculine is euthronos, the feminine is euthronos as well. The neuter is euthronon. So even though it looks masculine, in fact it's feminine here, going with Dawn, Eos, which is feminine. And it's made up of two parts. It's made up of the eu at the front, well, and thronos, throne. And it's what we call, therefore, a compound adjective. And they're best translated in English by a hyphenated phrase, well-throned. You'll see another one in the next line, eupeplon, well-robed. Now you could say beautifully throned, beautifully robed if you wish. So the Dawn is personified as a goddess, and I suppose she sits in a grand throne, is the idea. Dawn came. Dawn, which, this is the relative pronoun, as you can tell, because it's got an accent. If it was just the feminine article, it wouldn't have an accent. Which woke her. Min is going to come up a lot, you'll find. It's a Homeric equivalent of auton, masculine, or auten, feminine, and it's auten here because it's referring to Nausicaa, which woke her. And then in the next line, in actual fact, we're told who the her is. Nausicaa, well-robed, beautifully robed Nausicaa. So this is a morning scene, a dawn scene. The sunlight, the sun rises, and wakes Nausicaa in her palace. Afar, then, is our connecting word, and I suppose it's a conjunction. It's just, I think it probably means something like immediately, and immediately, the de, and immediately. Now this is a verb you would recognise, thaumadsto, to wonder at, to be amazed at. It's a compound verb, apo, thaumadsto. The apo is an intensifier there, and it just means she was completely amazed. What's she amazed at? She's amazed oneiron, at her dream. Now you'll notice that we start in our text here at line 50, and line 48 in actual fact. Now what's happened in the previous 47 lines? Well, Homer has told us about a dream that Nausicaa had in the night, and this dream is, you need to know the details of this dream. The goddess Athene has appeared to Nausicaa, disguised as one of Nausicaa's friends, and this friend, Athene in disguise, has reminded Nausicaa that she is now of an age to be married. Now, in actual fact, she's probably only about 15 or 16 at the most, which may seem a bit young to us to be married, but in the ancient Greek world, certainly if you were a princess, then you would certainly be you could certainly be married off by your parents at that age. So Nausicaa's friend has reminded her that if she's to find an eligible husband, she needs good clothes and clean clothes, and therefore she must organise the laundry. So in actual fact, this idea of having to do the laundry means that this adjective eupeplon, beautifully robed, which could just be a sort of decorative adjective normally, has some point. I mean, it obviously points to Nausicaa's high status. She's a princess, and as such she is very well dressed. But it also, of course, the emphasis upon clothes also leads into this episode, which is our text, which is all about the cleaning of clothes. Well, it's not all about the cleaning of clothes. It's about a meeting between Nausicaa and Odysseus, but it's engineered by the need to clean clothes. So she's amazed at her dream. Remember that Athene is the patron goddess of Odysseus. She protects Odysseus. She is his guardian angel, you might say. And Odysseus is, at the moment, in a bit of a sticky situation, naked, shipwrecked on the shore, and is therefore vulnerable. And Athene is therefore, as gods do in the Homeric epics, engineering a situation whereby Odysseus will be discovered by Nausicaa, who will not pose any threat to Odysseus. He could be discovered by sort of fishermen and who might attack him aggressively. So this meeting between Nausicaa and Odysseus is carefully engineered by Athene to protect Odysseus when he is vulnerable. Now, what does Nausicaa do? Well, bear, interestingly enough. Now, you probably know the aorist tense of bino is eber, eber. This is the third person, but of course it's lost its augment, which a lot of Homeric verbs do, which can make them sometimes a bit tricky to identify. But she went. It's almost like, and this is to go, it's the infinitive of Amy Ebo, which you know. It's the other Amy besides Amy I am. This is the Amy I go. So we're going to say something like, and she proceeded to go through the palace, Doma. And this verb here, bear, at the beginning of the sentence, beginning of the line rather, throws emphasis upon it. The first word in the line and the last word in the line are emphatic places. And so Nausicaa doesn't, she's not having a lie-in, like a lot of teenage girls and boys do. On the contrary, she gets up straight away and she heads off to find her parents to ask their permission to sort out the laundry. But she's not going to tell them what the real reason why she's so keen to do the laundry, because of course it's to do with the possibility of her future marriage, and that's what she's got in mind. But she's not going to tell that to her parents. She's just going to volunteer to do the laundry. I don't know how many times you've gone to your parents and volunteered to do the laundry, but this is what Nausicaa does. But the verb at the beginning there shows us that she's up out of bed and off straight away to act upon the dream. She doesn't lie around. So she proceeded to go through the palace. Here we have Hina, which is regular Attic Greek. We know we've got a purpose clause. This is angular, a verb you know, obviously. It's an octative form, which we needn't worry about. In order to announce it, in order to report it to her parents, Clocus, there's a dative plural there. And then her parents are specified in the next line. To her father, her dear father, and to her mother. Now this is Alcinous and Arete, the king and queen of the island. Though Philoe here in grammar goes with patri, father, we're not, but there's no Philoe with Maitri, Philae with Maitri. That doesn't mean to say that she loves her father, but she doesn't love her mother. We assume that the adjective applies to both parents, we will find that this household, this palace where Nausicaa lives with her parents and her brothers, is portrayed as very much an ideal family, and Phaeacian society is portrayed by Homer as very much an idealized society. In the same way, interestingly enough, you may know that the famous story about Polyphemus and the Cyclops, and the way he is treated, the way he treats Odysseus and his men. He is the exact opposite. He is the picture of brutality and lack of civilization. Now, Odysseus comes across a society which is quite the contrary. So, she found, this is the verb, no augment, she found them, the parents, that is, being inside, indoors, I suppose. You would recognise ontos, don't worry about the addition of F on the front, that is the present participle of Amy, to be. She found them indoors, inside. And then we have the two parents. We start with her mother, Her Men, and we'll meet her father in the next line, Toi De. And notice you have a classic men and de there. The mother on the one hand, and then in the next line the father on the other hand. So the mother was seated, epi, by the hearth. Now the hearth is the fireplace, the centre, the focus of any ancient building would be the fireplace, where for warmth and for cooking. So she, the mother, was seated by the fireplace with her maids women, her servant women. And this is the word for wool, or thread, or yarn. This is strophosath. There's an alpha missed on the end, and it's agreeing with Arete, the mother. She is spinning thread. And then haliporphura is another compound adjective meaning sea purple, and you'd hyphenate that word. And it describes the thread, erlakata. It goes the erlakata and the haliporphura. They're both neuter plurals in actual fact. Spinning sea purple thread. Now it's interesting that when we meet Nausicaa's parents, when we first meet them, they are both of them doing the fulfilling the traditional role of a man and a woman in Homeric Greek society, and the woman is in the house with her maids. I don't know if we imagine Arete, the queen, as actually spinning the yarn herself. Probably she is, but she's supervising her maids, who are doing most of the work, one would imagine. She's by the hearth. One would imagine she's also supervising the cooking, This is the traditional role for a woman in Homeric society. The father, on the other hand, Alcinous, is can you see it's the dative here, toide, and it goes with the sombleto, there's our verb, and it takes the dative. I suppose it's going to mean she met her father, on the other hand, and he is erkomonoi, he is going to the door, thuradste, he's going to the door, so he's heading out in actual fact, with Cletus Basileas. Now, you know Basilus meaning a king. I'm not sure it isn't a king here, it's a sort of, it's a senior members of the society, noblemen, you might say princes. These are the top men of the Phaeacian society, with Cletus, illustrious princes, you might say, illustrious nobles. And where are they going? Notice it's been enjammed to the beginning of the next line, to the boule, to the council meeting. Now this then is the traditional role for Homeric men. They are outside at the council meeting. This is a bit odd, this hinna, because we met it in line 50 up here, introducing, as it normally does, a purpose clause. Here, in line 55, however, it means where. Where the Phaeacian nobles were calling him. And kaleon is an imperfect tense. Its augment is missing. It should be kaleon. So we have this picture then of the mother by the hearth and the father going out to a council meeting. In the early morning, interestingly. Herde, clearly feminine, referring to Nausicaa. Nausicaa standing very close, addressed. So this is, well, you recognise the apon at the end. This is pros lego. Spoke to her dear father. And notice we get philon again here. We had patri philoi up here in line 51, and now we have philon patera in the accusative. There's an emphasis, and in actual fact you'll find in the next section, the beginning of the next section, the first thing that Nausicaa says is papaphila, father dear. Now this emphasis upon the dear father shows harmonious family relationships, and those harmonious relationships within the royal family are replicated, so is the idea, within the whole of Phaeacian society. Also, you notice that Nausicaa is standing anki, near. You know, now if there was any difficulty in this relationship between father and daughter, then she wouldn't be standing so close. So, what does Nausicaa say to her father? Well, here we have papaphila. Now, and the whole of this slide, as you can see, is Nausicaa's speech. We have speech marks at the end of line 65 at the bottom of the page. Now, with this speech, Nausicaa seeks to persuade her father that to allow her to go down to the river and sort out the laundry. And she's quite persuasive, and we have to see the different ways in which different methods she uses to persuade her father. One of which, I suppose, at the very beginning is, when she says papaphila, it's a display of affection for her father, and this is she hopes to receive a display of affection back, I suppose. What does she say? This is the word for a panen, a cart or a wagon. A cart probably is what we'd say. This is the verb, ephoplizo, and it's something like here we have the an, which you know tends to mean wood in Greek, and this is an optative form, ephopliseas. Would you organise a cart for me, please? The ook here, would you not be prepared to organise a cart for me? Now, this is a very tentative way of expressing her wish. It's very polite. It's a polite request. The optative, the use of the optative here suggests a very polite request. Nausicaa is not presuming that her father will give his permission and give her a cart to take the clothes down to the river. She's asking genuinely, would you please give me one? And she's hoping that he will agree. She makes no presumption. And then in the next line we have a couple of adjectives to describe the cart. It's a high cart and it's well wheeled. And again we have another compound adjective. We had well throned in the first line, and then we had well robed, and now we have well wheeled. Eukuklon. Kuklos, of course, is where we get the word cycle from. So would you provide a cart for me? A high cart, a well-wheeled cart. Purpose clause, hinna, so that I may take. We have a subjunctive form there. It's not o my, it's o my. The vowel is lengthened. Ago. So that I may take our clothes, hemata, neuter plural. So that I may take our fine clothes, es potamon, to the river. This is the verb pluno, to wash them, to launder them. We must assume that there is a river flowing down to the sea, and where this river flows into the sea must be at the point where Odysseus has been washed ashore. They're not going to wash the clothes in the seawater, of course. It's salty. It's not going to. What you want is fresh water and flowing water in order to wash clothes. To the river to wash them. Tar. Now, this is the relative pronoun in actual fact. Which. It's not the definite article, it's the relative pronoun. It's neuter plural because this word for clothes, hemata, is neuter plural. Which lie soiled, dirty. Moi is for me. It's difficult to translate that, which now lie soiled. It's probably actually best translated as my clothes. But she's not just referring to her own clothes, which now lie soiled. I'm inclined, to be honest, to omit the moi in translation. It's a bit difficult to translate. And then, of course, we have a question mark at the end, because she said to her father, would you please arrange a cart for me? It is a question. And then she says, notice this use of kai. Kai soy, for you too. It is fitting. Oika is an impersonal verb. It is fitting for you too, yourself. Notice the autoi, yourself. It's got to be second person here because it's going with soy, dative, and autoi is clearly dative. There's a bit of flattery there. You're the king. But it is fitting for you too, yourself. being onta, don't worry about the onta, being with the leading men, the first men. I don't know what this full stop is doing at the end of line 60. Ignore it, that's not the end of the sentence by any means, because it is fitting for you requires an infinitive, this one here, buluane. Ignore that full stop at the end of line 60, it's wrong. So it is fitting for you too, also, yourself, being with the leading men, to take counsel, buluane, having, ekonta, having clean clothes on your skin. So what she's saying here is that I don't just want to clean my clothes, I want to clean the whole family's clothes. You need clean clothes when you go to council meetings. And she's going to say in the next lines that her brothers need clean clothes too. Interesting phrase, boulas buluane. Now, bouler is the council, and the phrase is emphatic, partly by its position at the beginning of the line, also by the repetition. You've got bouler, a council, and then you've got buluane, which is to attend council, as it were. It's when you have a noun and what we call the cognate verb with it. It's something like to deliberate your deliberations. You know, when you say in English something like to dream a dream. And the repetition emphasizes council meeting, to take counsel in council meetings. It's a grand phrase, serious discussions. It's flattery. Nausicaa is flattering her father. You know, when you go to council meetings and deliberate, you need clean clothes. This is a subtle flattery by the daughter of her father. So then in the next line we have the 5 sons, pente, 5 dear sons in Megara. Megara, neuter plural, is the Homeric word, one of the Homeric words for the palace where a noble family would reside. This, I suppose, must be related ultimately to Gignomai. I think we'll just say there are 5 dear sons in the palace too. This is a number, duo, 2 of whom are married, but 3 are bachelors. Now, the bachelors, this is Thalathontes, describing the bachelors, in the prime of their youth. So 2 of the 5 brothers, Nausicaa's brothers, are married, but 3 of them are unmarried, or bachelors, in the prime of their youth. Now these are princes, and these are young men, probably no more than 20 themselves, and they always wish having new washed clothes to the dance to go. So they always wish to go to the dance having new washed clothes. Well, of course they do. So they are these are the royals of the island, and her brothers, when they go on a Saturday night to the disco, so to speak, they want new washed clothes themselves. So Nausicaa is doing a favour for everybody here by sorting out the laundry. She's doing a favour for her brothers, for her father, and at the same time she's going to clean her own clothes, which is, as we know, her primary motivation, which she conceals here from her father. der Panther. I suppose we would say all these things, memelen, are of concern, freni, to my mind. All these things are of concern to my mind. So, how will Nausicaa's father respond to her persuasiveness?